7 of my guys finished inside of the top 10, and I had 16 finish inside of the top 24. We had huge weeks from the running backs again. CMC, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Quinshon Judkins, and Bijan Robinson rounded out our top 5, all who were in our top 10 on the week. We had surprise finishes from guys like Kyle Monungai, Brashad Smith, Rhamondre Stevenson, and Tyrone Tracy, all finding their way inside of the top 24. And then the duds on the week, guys like Breece Hall, Bill, a.k.a. Ja'Cory Cross-Key-Merritt, David Montgomery, and Alvin Kamara. Lots of things to go through, but it's time to look ahead to Week 8, go through my rankings, talk about the matchups, only here on the Face Off Sports Network. Well, it's officially Week 8, and we've got a bunch of teams on bye, so that's going to be pretty big this week in fantasy. We've got the Arizona Cardinals, the Detroit Lions, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Los Angeles Rams, and, of course, the Seattle Seahawks rounding out the Monday night crew here to all move towards our bye weeks. It's time to move those guys to our bench, talk about some flex options, talk about some running backs here. It's going to be a little bit tougher. The running back position is going to be dicey this week. We're going to see a lot of names kind of fall outside of the top 24. The matchups are interesting this week, but let's get straight to tier 1. And that's going to be, of course, the same guys we talk about every single week. We've got Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, and James Cook. Welcome back, James Cook, who's coming off the bye week. But let's start with Bijan Robinson. This is a great run blocking team in a fantastic matchup. The Miami Dolphins have been absolutely atrocious against running backs. They're first in points allowed against the running back position. Bijan's coming off a week where he had 21.2 points, 14 carries for 40 yards, added 6 catches for 52 yards and a touchdown. He's averaging 5.4 yards per attempt, 1.14 points per touch. He's got tons of targets, 38 targets on the year. This guy's just a machine. The matchup's perfect. You're going to play him. Christian McCaffrey taking on the Houston Texans. That's a stout defense, but it doesn't really matter when you get the volume he has. Great argument for him to be 1 overall. 39 points on the week, 29 carries for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. Added 7 catches for 72 yards. I mean, the targets are insane. Right now he has 65, which is first among all running backs, and it's still not even close. He's averaging just over 1 point per touch. I mean, the guy is fantastic. The San Francisco offensive line is great run blocking, so you're going to play him. He's going to score you a ton of fantasy points. Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor here, my running back 3. Takes on the Tennessee Titans, so I like the matchup there. Could get out of hand, which leads to him having more opportunity and more points. But frankly, it doesn't matter. I mean, he's absolutely on fire. Another 3-touchdown week. He had 34 points, 16 carries for 94 yards, and 3 catches for 38 yards. I mentioned the 3 touchdowns there. The Tennessee Titans, they're one of the teams that give up the most points to the running back position. So I like the matchup there. Again, Jonathan Taylor averaging 5.32 yards per attempt, averaging just over 1.15 points per touch. I mean, he's just getting it done. Every time he touches the ball, he's making a big play for your fantasy team. Josh Jacobs here, RB4, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. A little bit of a tougher matchup there on Sunday Night Football, but he's coming off a week where he had 19 points, 13 carries for 55 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's worth noting he had the injury scare going into the game, so that's something to monitor as we go through the week here. So if you're a Josh Jacobs manager, go check for Emmanuel Wilson, see if he's on your waiver wires. He would be a priority add for me just to see what happens. Devon Achane here at running back 5 takes on the Atlanta Falcons, so a tougher matchup there. Coming off a bad week, 13 points, 13 carries for 82 yards, just 3 catches for 16 yards. It's funny to say just 3 catches because he's second in targets among all running backs with 44. Still having a solid season, man. I mean, he's got 5.3 yards per attempt. He's averaging 1.13 points per touch. It's just the Miami Dolphins offense is really bad right now, and it's tough to trust them. I've said a couple times he's the only Dolphin I would play, and I stick by that. I mean, he's just getting it done through the volume in the air. The ground game is going to be tough and inconsistent. We'll see what happens. Tua might get benched. He did get benched during this game, so that's worth monitoring. And then rounding out our top tier here with James Cook at 6. Buffalo, great offensive line up front. They're great running the ball. Taking on the Carolina Panthers, that's a little bit of a tougher matchup, so we'll have to watch that. He's coming off the bye week, so he should be fresh, should be healthy. I like him to continue to pick up where he was before. I mean, he's averaging just over 5 yards per carry. You can't do much better than that. That's top 10 in the NFL right now. But let's talk about tier 2. Lots to break down here. Saquon Barkley, Quinshon Judkins, Javonte Williams, Rashad White, Derrick Henry, and Cam Scatterbo. Now, you could make a great argument for moving Saquon down, and I get it. He has not been good. This Eagles team is different. What's I like to see here, I mean, he only had 5 points this past week, but he had 18 carries. I like seeing that volume go up for him. Only 44 yards. I mean, they're just trying to find ways to win. The passing game succeeded for Philly this past week. I expect them to get back to running the ball. The Giants are actually surprisingly a good team to run against, so that bodes well for Saquon Barkley this week taking on the Giants. So I like him. I think he's going to continue to get better. I get it's a little scarier, but he's Saquon, and we got to trust him. Quinshon Judkins, coming off a massive week where he was inside the top 10, had 3 touchdowns, 26 points, 25 carries for 84 yards and 3 touchdowns. Points allowed. The Patriots are tough up front. They don't give up a ton of points to the running back position. So that's a difficult matchup, but Judkins is getting the volume. He's getting it done. The Cleveland offense just frankly isn't that good. So it's going to be a little bit scary, a little bit dicey there, but I expect him to continue to perform. I mean, he's getting the rock a ton, and he's finding a way to get it done. If he can just fall in the end zone, which he is consistently doing, he's going to be good for your fantasy team. So I like that for him going forward. But let's get to running back 9 here, Javonte Williams for the Dallas Cowboys. Great offensive line up front. They continue to be a powerhouse on offense. Absolutely destroyed my Commanders this past week. Take on the Denver Broncos. Tougher matchup up front, but the Broncos have been really inconsistent. They're a good defense, but they at times just disappear and give up points. I mean, we saw the Giants absolutely blow that game, but Javonte Williams, man, let's focus on him. 19 points, 19 carries for 116 yards and a touchdown, still averaging 5.33 yards per attempt and averaging just under 1 point per touch at 0.99. So every time he gets the ball in his hands, he's finding a way to get you a point on your fantasy roster. And that is huge. I mean, he is absolutely dominating right now. And again, this Dallas offense, not enough can be said about what they're doing. They're fantastic up front running the ball. They continue to throw the ball all over everyone. I do not see this offense slowing down at all. I get Denver's tough, but I mean, at this point, Dak is on fire. He hasn't thrown really any interceptions, multiple games in a row with 3 touchdowns. So you can continue to start Javonte Williams and expect big things from him as we move forward. But let's talk about my running back 10, Rashad White here. Takes on the New Orleans Saints. That game wrapped up tonight on Monday Night Football. Not a great game for him. 4 points, 4 carries for 14 yards, added 2 catches for 3 yards. The big thing here is Bucky Irving going to play? I don't think he will, but if he does, of course, that's going to impact where we have Rashad White. But I'm operating under the assumption that he will not play. The matchup is good against the Saints. The Saints are not that good. Rashad White should have the volume. They should get better. It's worth noting the pass catchers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers continue to be decimated by injuries. I mean, we saw tonight Mike Evans get knocked out of the game. I don't want to speculate on what his availability will be going forward, but I don't expect him to play this upcoming week. So I would be ready to fire up Rashad White again in a pretty good matchup where I think he can kind of get back on pace, assuming that Bucky Irving does not play. But my next running back here is going to be Derrick Henry, and I get it. It's not been pretty, but he still has the metrics to show. Baltimore has been a pretty good offensive line up front, taking on the Chicago Bears. So that's a ho-hum matchup, but at the same time, I think Derrick Henry deserves the respect that he and his name provide, and I think he's going to continue to be an okay play. I mean, he should be healthy. There's speculation that Lamar is going to be back. I know he didn't practice today, but a lot of people view him as coming back soon. So if he does play, then I think that only helps this Baltimore offense and helps Derrick Henry get more opportunity at the goal line and more opportunity to score for your fantasy team. So I get it. Coming off bye, he should be healthy, so you should play him. But to round out tier 2 here, we've got Cam Scatterbo, and man, what else can you say? I mean, the guy's absolutely on fire, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who he torched just a couple weeks ago. We'll see what happens there. I don't expect it to go like it did then. They're playing at Philly. Philly's trying to get their mojo back, and I think they're on the right path. Cam Scatterbo this past week against Denver had 18 points, 16 carries for 60 yards, 3 catches for 34 yards, and a touchdown. Continues to be a guy that's scoring a ton of touchdowns. I get it. It's not necessarily a sticky stat, but it's what he's doing right now. So you have to chase those points. I think he's going to be a must play just based on the volume alone. They continue to feed him the rock and use him like crazy. Now, it's worth noting Tyrone Tracy did find his way inside of the top 24 this week. A surprise finish there. He did have a big play that resulted in a touchdown. I believe it was about a 30 to 40-yard run. So that's a big point play there to push his stats up. Now, Cam Scatterbo continues to be really involved in the passing game, 28 targets, top 10 among all running backs. So I like to see that. Jackson Dart continues to trust him, check it down to him. This team's using him at the goal line. So I expect Cam Scatterbo to be someone that you can play in your roster. I mean, he's a fringe RB2, back end RB1. It's just going to depend on if he can find his way in the end zone. And who knows, these divisional games, they go all over the place. We saw just a couple weeks ago, they take the Eagles and absolutely beat them down. So there's a good chance that he can do that again. I don't think that's how this game will go. But hey, you never know. But let's talk about tier 3, and let's start off with J.K. Dobbins, Jaylen Warren, DeAndre Swift, Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara, and Breece Hall. Now, this group here, I get it. It's a lot of veterans. It's older guys that are kind of been up and down this season, but there's a lot of to like here about the points allowed matchup. But let's just start with J.K. Dobbins. He's taking on Dallas, the 425 window, coming off a week where he had 9 points, 14 carries for 81 yards. He's getting consistent volume. I love the carries there for him. Dallas's defense has been pretty much up until them playing Washington this past week, terrible. They've given up a ton of points. They're great opportunity for running backs. They're top 10 in points allowed to the running back position. They're terrible against the run, and one of the worst one of the worst rush defenses in the entire NFL. So J.K. Dobbins set for a good opportunity. He's a goal line guy. I like what he can do going forward. So I think he's going to have the volume and the opportunity to put up some pretty good fantasy points this upcoming week. Again, I'm going to chase it. I get it's not been the best week, but if he would have scored a touchdown on those 81 yards, he would have had a better week for you. So I like J.K. Dobbins. But let's talk about Jaylen Warren taking on the Green Bay Packers, a tough matchup there on Sunday Night Football. That being said, he's been fantastic. I mean, 20 points, 16 carries for 127 yards, added 4 catches for 31 yards. You know, this Steelers offense has kind of been a little bit up and down, but here lately, Rodgers is playing some pretty good football. They're spreading it around, using these tight ends all over the field, and the run game has been more consistent. I get it. The matchup's not great. The Packers do not allow a bunch of points to the running back position. They're one of the top 5 defenses in that regard. They're also top 5 defense against the run. We saw them also perform well just yesterday on Sunday. So I like the Packers defense, but Jaylen Warren is getting not only the volume, but he's also being extremely efficient with the ball in his hands. Great yards per attempt. So I like him going forward. I think Jaylen Warren's going to be a sneaky play as we move towards the playoff season. A lot of people projected maybe Caleb Johnson would eat into this role. Kenny Gainwell is a serviceable back, but he's just an RB2, and he's kind of one of those guys to spell Jaylen Warren when he needs a break. And Warren has been so good with the ball in his hands, so I expect that to remain the same. My running back's 15, though, DeAndre Swift, stacking back-to-back good weeks. Shout out to him. He had 21 points, 19 carries for 124 yards, added a catch for 14 yards. And this is another opportunity here. We're talking about the matchup. The Bears taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are kind of in shambles. Like I mentioned before when talking about Derrick Henry, we'll see if Lamar plays. If he doesn't play, then this game could get ugly. You just never know. But Baltimore has been bad against the run on defense. Not to mention they also allow top 5 points against running backs. So the opportunity is there for DeAndre Swift. He continues to be involved, continues to have a high volume. So just that volume alone is something I'm going to chase. He's also looked better with the ball in his hands. He's making some moves, making some people miss. I do want to mention Kyle Monangai did get some opportunities. 17 points this past week, 13 carries for 81 yards, added a touchdown. Now, that game was a little bit ugly. The weather was bad. Caleb wasn't playing good. There were some turnovers. So it does bode well for the run game in that regard. The offensive line completely revamped in Chicago, and that interior offensive line took over the game against the Saints. If you didn't watch it, go back and watch it. Look at the tape. That offensive line played really well. Both the tight ends were blocking well. So I like DeAndre Swift going forward. I think he's a pretty good play. He feels really safe to me as being an RB2, a guy that can kind of lock in between 10 to 15 points each week just based on the targets and the attempts alone. And if he finds his way in the end zone, it's only going to be better for your fantasy teams. But running back 16, Chase Brown, had a better week. The fantasy points won't necessarily show that, only 12 on the week, but he had 11 carries for 108 yards. That was really good to see that he kind of got back to a little bit more efficient player like he was this past season. A lot of that is because Joe Flacco was helping this passing game keep the ball, moving it down the field. Now, Cincinnati is not a good run-blocking team, so you do need to keep that in mind. He's a riskier play, and he's taking on the Jets, and that's a good defense up front. Top 10 against the run, top 10 in points allowed to the running back, negatively. So they don't allow a ton of points to the running back. But Chase Brown continues to be a guy that's going to get the ball out of the backfield. Lots of red zone opportunity. He has 28 targets on the year, so that's top 10 among all running backs. So I like him, and I like his opportunity. I would play him as a safe RB2 with some RB1 upside if he can find his way to get in the end zone. But let's talk about Alvin Kamara. Big name here. It's been really inconsistent. 6 points on the week, 11 carries for 28 yards, added 3 catches for just 1 yard. Takes on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a great matchup. I totally understand that. He continues to be someone that's involved in the passing game. 29 targets on the year, but it's worth noting Kendre Miller tore his ACL on Sunday, which ultimately leads to more opportunity for Alvin Kamara. Now, certainly they could bring in a guy like Devin Neal, who's the rookie that they drafted this past season, has not been that involved thus far this season. I just would expect more opportunity for Alvin Kamara, kind of just see what happens. Maybe this is a game where Tyler Shuck ends up getting involved. I don't know, but the Saints are just kind of really bad right now. And Alvin Kamara's workload has not been what we would necessarily expect it to be, but I'm going to trust the player and keep him in tier 3 here. I get it. It's been inconsistent, but hopefully he can just get in the end zone. Breece Hall will round out tier 3 for me. Not a great week for him either. Again, it's all been really inconsistent. He had 7 points, 11 carries for 38 yards, and 2 catches for 14 yards. He continues to be efficient when he does get the ball, but the Jets' offense is frankly terrible. Now, Justin Fields did get benched. They have not made a decision on who will ultimately be the starter for this team. But just like the other guys in this tier, the matchup is interesting. He takes on Cincinnati Bengals, who currently give up the most points to the running back position, 28.4 points on the week. I love that opportunity. Breece Hall still is top 10 in targets with 22 on the season. Isaiah Davis did get a little bit more burn, but I'm not really worried about his opportunity or his usage. Breece Hall should be the guy. I think he's going to have plenty of opportunity to score and hopefully find his way in the end zone, because if he does, I think he's going to be really good. Again, he's been super efficient with the ball in his hands, averaging pretty good yards per carry, getting the targets, solid missed tackles force. I love what he can do in space. I know Breece Hall was a big buy for me in the offseason, but this Jets team is just terrible. I'm expecting him to probably find his new home in the offseason and maybe even gets traded. There's been a lot of teams that have been rumored to be interested in Breece Hall and Alvin Kamara in this tier, so I would be monitoring that very closely. But let's get to our final tier here. And the theory here is going to be bad matchups. It's the inverse of the last tier. But let's start with Jordan Mason, Rhamondre Stevenson, Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, Kamani Vidal, Rico Dowdle, and Isaiah Pacheco. Now, again, we've got so many big names on bye that there's going to be a lot of guys that are just outside of here. Tony Pollard's lurking on the outside. He could easily find his way inside of the top 24. But let's start with Jordan Mason, who had this past week 12 points, 15 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown, taking on the Los Angeles Chargers, who look a little bit lost. It's going to be on Thursday night, so be sure to monitor that. I expect him to continue to be the guy with the role. I mean, he's not necessarily too involved in the passing game, which is kind of a little bit of a downside. He's ultimately going to be capped, but I do like what he can do in the run game. The Chargers defense is a little bit stout, but they've been inconsistent. So Jordan Mason is simply a volume play, and you're hoping for the touchdown. Rhamondre Stevenson at running back 20. Great week for him. 17 points, 18 carries for 88 yards, added 2 catches. The role is the most important part here. I mean, Stevenson has been absolutely dominating the snap share, while we have the rookie and Travion Henderson, who's getting virtually no burn. I mean, he had 2 attempts this past week. Absolutely no opportunity for him. Very, very limited snap share. Not many routes run by the rookie either. Rhamondre is trusted by Mike Vrabel right now, and that's important to know. There's a good video of him after the game getting hyped up by Mike Vrabel. The matchup here is not great against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's pretty good against running backs. They're actually top 5 in points allowed to the running backs, so they're good at shutting down those RBs. At the same time, they're also good against run as a whole, top 10 in run defense. And then there's the other side of the coin is the Patriots aren't necessarily that great of a run blocking team. So it's not the best matchup. It's not the best opportunity. But Rhamondre's volume, you have to put him in the top 24, I think. There's no way around it. He continues to get that volume and continues to get the workload, and he's kind of starting to do something with that. Let's talk about Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt at running back 21. I said it last week. It was a prove it week, and, it just made the situation a little bit murkier. 4 points, 13 carries for 33 yards, added 1 catch. he just has been inconsistent. And a lot of it comes down to this offense and that offensive line play. Jaden Daniels got hurt. They started getting absolutely destroyed by the Cowboys. So they kind of just gave up. Washington has not been a great run blocking unit up front. They did get Sam Cosmi back. This will be Sam Cosmi's first week of full practices, and that matters. Cosmi was an all-pro guard. I think he has a real opportunity to, help bolster this unit. Kansas City has been bad against the run, so you do like that, but they don't allow a ton of points to the running back position. So they might give it up between the 20s, be bad against, say the run game there, but they get stout in the end zone. And if Jaden Daniels is hurt, that's going to absolutely impact where we play Bill. So that's something to monitor. But for right now, I'm going to keep him just on the outside. Given the buys, there's lots of names that we're not including. Guys like Kenneth Walker, Sharbs, Kyron Williams, Ashton Genty, Travis Etienne, Gibbs, Monty. So there's opportunity for some of these guys to find their way into the top 24. But Kamani Vidal, my running back 22, not a great week following up his heroic week. 8 points, 9 carries for 20 yards, added 4 catches for 15 yards. The Chargers, again, not the best young run blocking unit. They've taken some injuries up front. They're kind of all over the place in shambles, taking on the Vikings on Thursday night. I just like the opportunity for him. It's still going to be split between him and Haskins, but I think he's going to have enough volume. And if he gets in the end zone, he's going to be a solid play for you. And he's still available out there in some leagues, so be sure to check your waivers if you need a spot start given all these buys. Rico Dowdle, my running back 23, takes on the Buffalo Bills. This past week, he split the role with Chuba Hubbard, had 11 points, 17 carries for 79 yards, added 1 catch for 17 yards. He had less snaps than Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard slightly outsnapped him. I think it was 52-48. Percentage-wise, Carolina is great up front. They're a solid run-blocking team. Buffalo gives up pretty good amount of points to the running back position. They're also one of the worst run defenses in the league, so opportunity continues to be there for Rico Dowdle, but Chuba Hubbard's still going to be involved. So he's another name that's just outside of the top 24. Easily could find his way inside of the top 24. Isaiah Pacheco closes out our tier 4 here. Kansas City, pretty good run blocking unit up front. There has been some injuries to the offensive line, so that's worth noting and worth monitoring. Takes on Washington. Washington has absolutely been destroyed by the running back position for the last couple weeks, so I like the matchup there. This past week, Pacheco had 12 points, 15 carries for 57 yards and a touchdown. I've said it a bunch. The Kansas City backfield is one that I like to stream just because they're scoring points. You're hoping for the touchdown, not to mention Pacheco starting to finally get some volume to him. So I like that going forward. But that's going to round out my top 24. Like I said, we've got some buys this week, so lots of names are going to be different than normal with all these guys out. But let's talk about some streaming options if you need someone or you have to, get through this bye week, because it is bye Mageddon, make no mistake. But we're going to start with Isaiah Davis, available in 98% of leagues. I mentioned before, 5 points on the week, 2 carries for 10 yards, 2 catches for 22 yards. But what's important here is the snap share, 48% of the snaps with Breece Hall. So I like that opportunity. I don't love the play. I would not make this. This would be a desperation flex if it's all I could do. Kyle Monangai, again, 17 points, 13 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown, added 2 catches for 13 yards. You can tell that Ben Johnson and this Bears offense are trying to find a running mate for Swift. And, they want to be like that Detroit offense. Monangai is a little bit more like David Montgomery, so he fits that mold, and I could absolutely see him, again, getting that opportunity and, again, getting the chance to really run with DeAndre Swift. The matchup against Baltimore could be good, especially if Lamar doesn't play. Monangai might get the similar opportunity, 13 carries, maybe 15 or so opportunities. So I like that move. Tyler Algier, available in 71% of leagues. I like his volume too. I mean, he's continued to be a guy that if he scores, then he's going to be great for your lineup. If not, he's going to get a decent amount of volume. So you just have to monitor that. Again, Kareem Hunt would be another name that I would be looking to start if I needed a desperation play. But really, the streaming options are not great this week. So if you haven't picked up Vidal or Haskins or any of those other guys like Rico, maybe Chuba's out there, Tajay Spears, lots of names we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. If they're not available, these are the 3 names that I would be looking at. But of course, check your waivers. If you have a question, throw it in the comments and I'll come back to it. But that's going to do it for me. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the Face Off Sports Network. We have these videos every single week. We've got all sorts of content. You can catch me live every single week on Wednesday. The Patreon's in the description. Join the Discord. It's free. I'll answer your questions in there along with everyone else from the Face Off crew. But we'll catch you in the next one.